Hey guys, it's SpringRae back with another video. Sorry, applying a little chappy chapstick. This one smells really good. It smells like pineapple. Got it from work. Anyway, I'm back again. This time with a video. I just watched a Netflix show while I was eating, and I was just like, yeah, I want to just sit here. You know, it's the weekend. I'd been out earlier, came back. I was just like, okay, I'm going to eat my food while I watch a nice Netflix show. What captures my attention? It was the BlingRing. I went to what was trending. And what happened to be trending was the BlingRing documentary. And I had already watched the movie. The movie for the BlingRing group. That was a while ago. I'll look it up on my phone while I'm talking. It's been out for a long time. Emma, the girl that played in Harry Potter, she played one of the characters in the BlingRing. It came out in 2013, so many years ago. And you know, even when I watched that movie, I don't even think I watched the whole thing because I was like, yeah, this is not holding my attention. And I just didn't really see the point of why they even made it into a movie, to be honest. I think I might have watched it because I was curious as to how, what's her name? How Emma Watson would do in the movie, because I'd only seen her in Harry Potter, and I was a big Harry Potter fan. So anyway, now Netflix decided to put out this documentary, and I kid you not, like I made it through maybe 30 minutes. It's a limited series. Made it through 30 minutes of it, and it frustrated me like crazy. Like I can usually take watching shows, like getting through the show, I had to turn it off, and I was just like, yeah, I was just like, oh, I want to get my thoughts out, because the only thing that I could think of the whole time watching it is white privilege. So I wanted to talk about the white privilege stuff today, because it's just so blatant in media, in, my real life, like day to day. And it makes me, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because I know Netflix has been in the news like for a while now. It's really dark in here. They've been in the news for a while now about, y'all can see my little plants, for canceling a lot of good shows. And, specifically fans have pointed out shows that, I wouldn't say necessarily all shows with people of color, but they definitely said like some of the shows that are more geared towards like the LGBTQ community have been canceled. A lot of, I think, like the anime type shows have been like not been renewed or canceled. And so we're seeing this kind of Netflix shift, and possibly shifting in the wrong direction, and that's why they're losing viewers. This is another reason why Netflix may lose me, because like it was sickening to watch the 30 minutes of this documentary about the BlingRing. Why? Because it just shows you how much that white people can get away with. I shouldn't say get away with, but almost, I mean, for the most part, they do, because they don't serve the time that Black and brown people do. So it was literally a documentary where the people who did the crime were laughing about it. And, I don't think any brown or Black person and all those in between would be laughing about how they had to sit in jail for 10 plus years for doing their crimes. They don't even get offered documentaries. So just to see this almost to me was like a blatant FU to people of color. That's how I see it, because it's just putting out more entitlement. Because let's take, like, if you take younger kids watching this, because kids watch everything that we adults watch. So take younger kids that decide to watch this, and parents will watch it with their kids. They're going to see that and see, and when I say kids, I mean like more so white kids or teens see this and see that there were no consequences, no major consequences for those at that time teenagers. They're like around my age now. And then the other thing, because I went online to kind of just see, like, is it just me type of situation? Like, am I the only one that's being frustrated by this? Is it my brain that's like not making sense? Or is it Netflix and this documentary? It's the documentary. I went online and when I say online, on Twitter, everybody that was posting about it, and it's mostly, I would say, more so people of color. Now, I can't tell everyone because not everybody has their real picture on Twitter. But a lot of people of color have noticed the white privilege that you immediately see it. And it's not what you would expect. When I hear documentary, I'm thinking of something that's more along the lines of giving fact and being like, I feel like documentaries, even that word, I take a sense of being more like you take it seriously. And this was like some type of comedy sketch that they created. I honestly feel like writing to Netflix, like, this is how frustrated I am, because I feel like people are being misled because they call it a documentary. I would call it a sketch comedy, and one that needs to be taken off of Netflix. That's how I feel. Like, I personally feel that this should be taken off completely because it does not do any good to anyone. All it shows to me is white privilege and entitlement. And again, like, it's just showing this sense of what white people can get away with. I'm trying to think of something kind of similar. I feel like a similar situation to the BlingRing would be the college scandal where, Aunt Becky from from Full House and other famous or wealthy people, how they were able to pay their way to get their kids into whatever colleges they wanted to, and they got caught doing that. I feel like Netflix did come out with a documentary about it, and it was more tastefully written. This is not like that. This is just, the two of the culprits in the BlingRing. I don't even want to give their names because honestly, they're just not important to me. And their attitudes were nasty. And again, the entitlement is just, it's still there. Listening to white people, and these are teenagers, talk about how they had it so bad, like they had issues growing up, and thinking that gives them the excuse to steal from other people when they're already living in LA, first of all, and living on, a pretty wealthy side. Like, I mean, one of the wealthier areas of the entire country. So just to hear, it was mainly the guy that I listened to before turning it off. And he was just saying, yeah, well, when I became a teenager, just everything was going crazy and I was breaking out and, this happened and I didn't know about my gender identity, how I was feeling. Like, other people don't go through the same thing. Breaking out, your skin breaking out does not give you the excuse to steal from other people. So it's just like hearing that to me is very upsetting. And I don't think Netflix did its due diligence in thinking about how this would come across to different people. I shouldn't say different. I don't like saying that, different people, but how people of color would take this. It's just, it's insensitive. I think I find it insensitive to the fact that if any Black person, especially Black people, tried to do something like what those teenagers at the time did, it would not be the same story. Some of them probably wouldn't even be alive to tell their own story, let alone laugh about it. So it's just frustrating. And, it just made me think of the white privilege I see daily. So, I didn't want to go into watching a documentary that's not called white privilege. It's different. If I go and look up white privilege documentary, wonderful. But that's not what I was trying to watch while I was just chilling out on the weekend. And so now it's made me frustrated thinking I'm going to watch just, a documentary. I thought I was going to watch just like some news coverage of what happened. And no, it's more to give the robbers and, those who committed the crimes a chance to just talk about how almost like they were victimized. And I'm just like, I'm not about that. And it's just irritating because the amount of white privilege I see on a daily basis is a lot. So I don't want to have to see it when I come home and turn on my TV unless it's like a topic that I want to get into, because it is frustrating. It gets me riled up. And, so very angry with Netflix for that, for it being misleading. It's trending. It's kind of almost along the same lines of like with how Devil in Ohio movie was it a movie series was promoted. Like, I feel like Netflix is not doing its due diligence and putting shows in their right category. Because even with that show, and I talked about it earlier, said it was like psychological terror or horror. That show was not anywhere near scary or psychological. It was just, to me, a lot of dumb writing. And again, I said, maybe it's just me, SpringRae. But I go online. Sometimes I go online to see like, okay, are these just my thoughts, or, do most people have the same thoughts as me? I just wanted to see like what's everyone else's opinions. And people said the same thing, like that movie was not good or series was not good. But because people see stuff trending, they think, oh, okay, well, everyone else is watching it. It must be a good thing. But I'm hoping that with this BlingRing documentary, I hope it gets taken down, but I don't know. I hope to save, people of color's time, because it can be triggering. It's triggering to see when, your race is held to, how should I say, not held to certain expectations. Your race, is not allowed to do certain things without really high consequences, but yet you see people of the white race being able to do those same things and get little to no consequences for those actions. I think for me, it's definitely triggering. And I haven't even, I haven't done anything anything that would warrant jail or anything like that. But, it's just knowing of other people in, my race that have been put away, just the way they talked about, like, one of the girls that was one of the robbers, stealers, whatever you want to call it, she was just so free in talking about like all the drugs that she and her friend did growing up. No black person can talk about that and just get away with it. Like, and it's that sense of she knows that she's not going to have consequences. So therefore she's comfortable talking about that. Get any black person that comes sit in front of the camera, while and talk about what they're smoking, like presently, they're not going to do that because they know what consequences they would face. And, maybe I should I feel like this is leading into just the topic of white privilege, which again, I didn't want to have to think about. Like, for when I came home, for example, this is why I just came back from hanging out with one of my friends, and one of the things that I always think about where I live is where I have to drive in order to find just nice places to hang out. Like, when I say nice places, like restaurants that aren't necessarily old chain restaurants, like finding like coffee shops or a walkable area where you don't have to worry about, how should I say, like driving everywhere. Like, you can walk around to different places. Nice shops, like, other than, like an Old Navy where you can find it's everywhere. But I guess my point is, I'm seeing, like, where I live, most of the places, the nicer places, are all being built on one side of town. And this city is big enough to where more could be put on the side of town that I live on, but I've noticed that they're building more so where white people stay. And it's frustrating to see that, even how things are taken care of as far as the grass, just the grass alone. You can literally tell, who's going to be in the neighborhood by how the grass is cut in this city. And that to me is sad, because I'm just like, well, we're paying taxes. We're all living in the same city. Especially, you could tell during COVID time, where they decided to cut the grass first was just blatant. On my side of town, like, I live with, there's white people on my side of town, but I would say it's more a mixture of people on the side of town. Whereas if you go into, hint, uptown, there is a lot of, there's not a lot of, it's basically white people, and that's all you'll see. And, it's done on purpose. Like, there's a lot of redlining, gentrification going on. People might think that redlining is no longer existent. It exists. People just don't call it that. They're going to hide it under some type of code and get around it. But it's just blatant. I'm noticing that. So anyway, long story short, me and my friend were hanging out on that side of town, like past uptown. So literally, it's mostly seeing white people with their dogs walking around the area. And it's just like, you feel like it's a nice area, but it's just like not a lot of diversity. So I like going there because it's nice to walk around, but it's just like, you can tell it's blatantly keeping some people out because of just location. They can't get there. If they don't have a car, they're not going to be able to get there. And they're not building up in other areas. So it's just like, well, you can't get there, so you just have to use what's there, and that's it. So it is frustrating. So like, when I come back to my side of town, I'm like, okay, I'm coming away from the whiteness. I go to watch Netflix and pull that documentary up, and it's literally just boom in my face again. It was very frustrating to see that. So I let Netflix know on Twitter. I added them and I said, how could you put this out? Like, of all shows, y'all are canceling shows, and yet you make this like public. I don't know why. And yeah, so anyway, white privilege is a thing, I guess, is my main point. And people who refuse to say that it exists. Oh, it exists. And if you're saying that, like, you're making excuses and showing ignorance. So, and I do feel like a lot of white people do just prefer to live in their bubble because they can afford to. Like, they don't have to put themselves in the situation of getting to know other races. And I shouldn't even say getting to know, just being around other races. They get to turn that on and off, whereas we don't get that choice. So again, it's frustrating. I think this is why my parents always told me, like, growing up, I always have issues, like, when I'm looking around the city and I say stuff out loud about just the, you know, the inequality of things that I see around town. And they're just like, Jasmine, you should have ran for, like, a public office position or whatever the call for the city. And I'm just like, if I could, I would, but I'm working off my one income right now, my main job, so I'm just like, I can't do it all. I wish I could, but I can't do it all. So yeah, but I just hope that one day people can open their eyes more to this and realize that it is an issue, and it definitely still needs to be addressed, because if we continue to let the privilege go and not check it, then it just continues to perpetuate, whiteness over everything else. And that extends into, I mean, I could go on and on. It extends globally. So that's where, it's like you take a smaller issue. I wouldn't call it micro. I feel like it's bigger than micro, and it becomes like macro level. So it's frustrating to me, but yeah, I would suggest, if you are a person of color, don't watch that documentary unless you want to be upset and angry, because that's how it made me feel. But I'm triggered by those types of things and a little sensitive to it. So I don't know. Everybody's their own person. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Anything else that I wanted to say? I think that's it. All right. Bye.